All righty, we are ready, set, go. And we have the lovely, legendary Miss Chrishon Lampley from Love Corkscrew with us tonight. Thank you all for joining. Um, Gosh, when did we meet? Like
Forever, forever.
so
I
long.
know it was pre-COVID,
Oh yeah, I feel like it's like
pre-COVID, but a while back. Those years, like I'm lost. To think that COVID
16,
was that long
17.
ago, still like, yeah, had to be.
Yeah, I was Sam alive?
Yes.
Okay, so it had to be like right, probably around like 8 years ago or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah.
So, anyways, I've known this lovely lady for a long time, obviously. And so I wanted to dig into your story, not just around Love Corkscrew, which obviously is very interesting, but just who you are as a person, as an entity, and as a really a mastermind of marketing. You have a very extensive background. So um, what, who was Chrishon prior to Love Corkscrew, and then what birthed that?
Whoa. So Krishan prior to Love Corkscrew was a general manager, high-end retail sales, my entire career, all on the avenue for you guys that know Chicago, from salesperson extraordinaire and then elevated to management, and just always had a love of people. And it was birthed from growing up. Again, for those that do know Chicago, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and we were one of the first and only Black families where I grew up.
Oh wow.
And it was definitely birthed from the strength from being that. Kids thought I had a tail, being called the N-word, you name it, growing up.
Mhm.
And I had parents that came from completely two different backgrounds. My father, who grew up on the south side of Chicago with nothing, two parents that were alcoholics, just he took care of himself, military guy, and then became a hugely successful person in diversity and inclusion, ironically, of some what we're going to talk about.
Mhm.
And then my mom grew up with six siblings, took care of them all, one of the oldest siblings. So I come from two like ridiculously resilient parents. And to grow up in a place of so much racism, true racism. I always challenge people that say, oh, I deal with racism all the time. Well, until you're a child and called the N-word,
Yeah,
hits
yeah,
different, hits
yeah,
different.
yeah.
So that was me really coming out in the limelight, funny enough, of not only being one of the only Black kids, but I was in musicals. I was a classical trained pianist. I was a good track runner as well. I was pretty fast. So I was always like touching everything. My mom used to say to me, I wasn't great at anything, but I was dang good at a lot of things. And it used to hit me a
Mhm.
little different a long time ago. I used to get offended by it, but I got it, right? I was
Mhm.
pretty dang good at just about anything. So that's what it was birthed from. My just who I am of just resilience, strength,
Yeah.
truth,
And
and some
parents,
great
your
parents.
parents did an incredible job of making sure you had a very well-rounded. It sounds like they also allowed you to dabble and explore like different things. And so while you may not have been, a LeBron James in it, you
Right.
definitely, was like, oh, I want to try this. So you've always had a curiosity to you. And so how did that curiosity lead you into the wine industry? And was your first entry into the industry with Love Corkscrew, or did you have some experience prior to that?
So my entry into wine was actually owning with my business partner at a time an art gallery and bar in Chicago in the South Loop. It was me getting sick of making money for everyone else, being in that retail world. My book was on average $3 million, and you don't see that much money, right? I'm on commission in the '90s, so in early 2000s. So it was really touching a space of saying I want my own. My father always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but never was a success in entrepreneurship. He was a success in corporate.
Hmm.
So I touched the wine space by simply being in that luxury sales, seeing these extremely wealthy people. I'm talking, one of my clients used to be Evander Holyfield's wife, right? Like just Heinz ketchup founders, like just ridiculous money. And they would always tell me how they would go to these restaurants like Gibson's and Hugo's in Chicago. And when I would visit these restaurants, I would see them all making deals over wine.
Hmm.
And I'm like,
Right.
what is with this?
Factor.
Why over wine? And I was intrigued by
Mm.
it, the sense of just high end. It just was sexy, and I didn't know why. And lastly, I growing up in the atmosphere I did, and to your point, my parents exposed me to a lot. I would go to a lot of the galas when I was younger, so I was eating caviar and things that as kids people were like, what the heck? So I was exposed to a lot of things at a young age. And that's really what got me into wine. And fast forward to owning the gallery, we won 2009 as with the best wine list, and I was the one who chose the wine list. So
Okay.
I had a knack for it, didn't know how, why, but I always had a curiosity for it.
Yeah. And so with Love Corkscrew, first, let's talk about the name. Like, how did you conceptualize the name? And then, at the time that you started this, there were not a lot of Black brands. So can we talk about that journey a little bit? Not only it being a Black brand, but a Black woman-owned brand. And we know, just from hearing the last few minutes, you've had a sense of tenacity and curiosity just naturally. But what did that look like, especially in Chicago?
Huh. It looked like, not just in Chicago, I'll make a general sense that I think we'll all relate to, and that's crabs in a barrel. It was that side of it in my community, but it also on the other side, it was they didn't believe me.
Right.
How in the world am I going to start a wine brand because I didn't grow up in California or I don't own a vineyard? Do you own a vineyard? Like what? How, what? So I'll start with the latter answer of how did that look like? It looked a lot like what people tell me I don't have to do anymore, and that's prove myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a lot of proving myself back then. A lot of questions that I would see from a table next to me. People wouldn't get those questions asked to them,
Hmm.
but these questions were asked to me, and it was very much a feeling like I'm not good enough. So I would get nervous and anxiety and wait, okay, did I answer that correctly? Maybe I didn't say the correct number of my residual sugar. Maybe the pH is different. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like I would get nervous. And afterwards, I would leave feeling defeated because I felt like I was defensive over wine, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Right. But actually, it's not really over wine though. Like when you think about it in retrospect, it was over them
Exactly.
really questioning who you are
Who I was.
and
Exactly.
your intelligence, right? And who you are as a woman, as a businesswoman.
Precisely, precisely. And then the name Love Corkscrew simply came from being on a call with a friend during my 9 to 5. And I had taken the side of I've worked in distribution. So I worked for Words Beverage back in the day, which is now Breakthrough. And I had one of the top territories in the state. So I had over 250 accounts on premise. And they would always tell me the same thing. They're sick of purchasing the same wine over and over again that their grocery stores have next to them. And I was in the Diageo side, so I was selling them some crappy wine. But they had to see me because I was selling Crown and Kettle and Smirnoff, all the Jack Daniels, all the not Johnny Walker, all the big things. And they were sick of buying crappy wine. And so I took that, but I also took the fact that I'm a good listener. So when I would hear people, their knowledge of wine was very minimal. Some
Mhm.
people would act like they knew a lot about wine, but they really didn't.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, even though you may not know much about wine, how to pronounce certain varietals, you got money. You can spend. You want to.
Yeah.
You want to bring a bottle of wine to barbecues. You want to bring wine to these functions. So I said, I'm gonna make it fun because you got the snob and then you got the $2 chuck.
Yeah.
but there was really at that time nothing in between. So I said, that's what I want. I want a good dang juice. I want to represent the Midwest, which people didn't even know. I to
Right.
tell you, I can pat myself on the back. That's to say that a lot of people didn't know that Michigan really existed with good lakeshore effect
Right.
wine. Did
Right.
not know until I started because I was just like blah 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 blah. The people in Michigan knew, the people that homes in Michigan knew, because several people have homes in Michigan. Yes, they knew. But outside of that, the respect level wasn't there for Michigan. So that was why I started Love Corkscrew, just fun. I wanted it quirky. I wanted sexy. I saw at the time how Menage a Trois and all these odd names were like making it big at the time. And I'm like, but I'm quirky and cool and I want something sexy. And it
Was
was
it crazy, kind of like crazy, sexy, cool? Like, because
kind of.
let's put a
And
time frame on it, like
what's that
the
book?
era.
Love, Pray. What's the book?
Eat, pray, love.
And literally that was what I had kind of like on the vision board. And I'm
Mm,
like, like three, I don't know, for some reason it was three words.
yeah.
And then I always loved love. I always have hearts, everything, even like my little like paperweight is a heart, right? I've always had hearts around. So it was that simple. I think with names and brands, and people ask me all the time about branding, it can be so simple. We overthink everything. And sometimes it's just who you are. And love, cork, screw is who I was.
Yeah. But can we put like, are we talking about the 90s, early 2000s? Like, when was this transpiring?
Early 2000s, well, mid 2000s. I don't want to age myself too much out there, but around 2009 is when I owned the art gallery. And Love Corkscrew, the concept, was created in 2012. Yeah,
Okay.
2012.
Yeah.
But I was Love Corkscrew. So I was writing a blog called Love Corkscrew before the wine even started.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people probably don't know that. What was
No,
the
a lot
blog
of people.
about?
It was about love, cork, screw. So love section were the funny things that would happen in our art gallery of two Black women owners that people would think we were the bartenders or assistants.
Mhm.
They didn't know. So it was actually pretty awesome because, as I'm sure the reputation of Chicago as being kind of crooked is out there. The things that I would hear in that art gallery over a glass of Knob Creek was insane, right? I
Right.
could people would be divorced, politicians would be in jail, like the things I would hear, it's just insane. So the love section was literally funny things that we would hear in the art gallery. The cork section were my varietal picks, and the screw section was a wild card talking about pop culture and what was happening at the time. And I was a terrible writer, but I had great stories. And that's why I had so many people that were reading my blog at the time. And then that advanced, people were like, you got a kind of like a radio voice. So I took that to back in the day, SoundCloud. If you guys remember SoundCloud, again, showing my age, we had over 4,000 listeners, and my radio show became about love, cork, screw. And it was fun. So yeah, it started way before the wine.
You definitely have a radio voice. Like, you could close your eyes and listen to this, and it's just like this sultry, like, oh yeah.
And it's so long, and it was just simply from being, I think, in theater, growing
Yeah.
up, and always projecting, and I always had to be heard, and that could be a good thing and a bad thing, right? When I was growing up, because I was looked at as the minority and not important as the little Black kid, I had to make sure I was heard,
Yeah.
and the importance of being heard and being heard correctly and elegantly.
It sounds like somebody taught you very early that your voice matters.
My mama and my dad. He
Yeah.
taught me to project. And I always said, it's not about, I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard this, right? It's not necessarily about how much you just did. But when you talk and say the right thing at the right time, or you need to be heard at that right time or ask the question, project.
Yeah.
Look the person dead in their eyes.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's what I learned at a young age.
So you've lived through redlining, you've lived through overt, covert racism,
Yeah,
lived through sexism in many ways.
yeah.
People, questioning you just based off of what they think your intellect should be or isn't, or all of these things. So what was the biggest hell no in your life that turned into a watch me win?
Whoa. That somebody told me hell no?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, so many. I still get hell no's. I get probably the one that hurt me the most, I would say hurt at the time, was an organization that turned down my wine when I first started because they said my labels were gitchy. I didn't even know what that meant. Um, and the individual that was in control of the situation, an event planner, um, said, compared me to Suge Knight. And this was all on a conference call as I'm driving, and I had to pull over. I was so upset and hurt,
Oh my
and
God.
God was saving me because my reception kept going out, so I kept having to rejoin the call as I wanted to say what I really wanted to say and couldn't. But
You would have turned into Suge Knight.
his purpose, his point of explaining why he compared me to Suge Knight was that I was hot right now, like at that time. So it was like death row. Like it was hot then, right at that second, but I wasn't going to be anything that was going to last.
You know who you should have turned into? Tupac. You should have turned into Tupac. And and who got you? That's who you should.
Man, I know exactly where you're going
You,
with that.
oh, oh,
Let me tell you, ironically, though. So, to the point to answer the second part of your question, ironically, what happened? It wasn't until last year that my wine got into that very, very important gap. So, and I was the exclusive wine for that very important gallon. Some of you may know which one I'm talking about. And it was more proof, and I'll tell everyone this for whatever career they're in, whatever thing, that man, God has timing. And when it's supposed to happen, it's supposed to happen. And it may not be in your time. So stop thinking you know the answer because you don't. And for it to be literally 12 years later that it
yeah.
happened, this was the one that raised the most money ever. This was the gala that had the most people ever. This is
Mhm.
the gala that I'm sitting at the head table. That
Mhm.
wouldn't have happened 12 years ago. My mind would have just been there. People would have drank, not cared, with their ticket that they bought and left.
Right.
Things happen for a reason.
Right. Divine timing.
Man,
It's so important. And I guess the lesson here is to release your attachment to the ending.
that
You don't know what that's going to look like.
you don't.
Um, but with all of that, you have been incredibly successful. I wanted to attend that. It sounds like I wanted to
You
attend
know
this
what? They know which one I'm talking about.
too. Um,
Y'all can
how
put
do
in the notes. I'm not going to say it out loud, but you can put in notes of what I'm talking about.
you How do you stay true to yourself while navigating this space? And that's hard because people cherry pick us, right? They
Yes.
want parts of you. They don't want these parts. They don't want to talk about the depths of your story, which selling wine is about the story just as much as it is about the juice. So how do you stay true to that? What advice would you give people?
To continuously do that even in your failure. And that's what's hard because we all want to make everyone happy, right? We all want to make everyone happy. It's very much of, okay, so if I listen to everyone, I'm a pet shop and a beauty store, and I, sell headpieces and hair and purses. If I listen to everybody's ideas, I'm doing way too much
Mhm.
for me as an entrepreneur. A hustler is different. And I say this in one of my classes that I teach about the difference between a hustler and an entrepreneur, two different things. So to stay true to myself, I'm going to go full steam ahead in my vision. Now, of course, I'm going to listen to experts. Of course, I'm going to take advice. Of course, I'm going to pivot along the way. We all pivot during COVID. We all pivot. I'm again showing my age during the housing crash, pivoted like crazy. So we're all going to do that. But if you stay true to your vision, it will all make sense. And yes, it is about your story. Even when you get at a larger scale and you have to start pulling your product away from your story. So if any of you follow me, you see that Love Corkscrew is starting to separate a little bit from Chrishon Lampley,
Mhm.
which I'm supposed to start doing, right, as the company grows. However, my vision is still the same. Love Corkscrew is still the same. I'm exactly who I am. I may not scream black on Love Corkscrew, but I don't hide the fact I am.
Right.
So always wanted to stay true to that. I always knew that Love Corkscrew was for everyone. I didn't want to pigeonhole that. And I would never go anywhere outside of exactly what my vision was.
That's really great advice. And being, as successful as you are, getting into that in particular gala, which I saw in the comments, that's why I was like, and all these other things, they shall remain nameless. But what, how did you do that? Like, what is some advice that you could give some people who are interested in having their own brand or, breaking into entrepreneurship? Because the game is the same,
Yes.
there's a template and there's the same. So what are the three template points that you would like to give people who, need some advice?
Now more than ever, please be whatever name you want to call it, intern, ambassador, uh, whatever name, apprentice. Learn about the business before you jump into it, whatever it is. This probably goes for just about anything, but wine specifically, or wine and spirit specifically, it's not as sexy as you think it is. The margins actually suck. So you have to sell a lot of product. And with the changes of what's happening right now because of DEI, and just simply a lot of the retail locations are narrowing these shelves down, you're going to be the first to, if not, if you even make it on there, good luck. I'll be
Yeah.
very real with you there. So really get to know the industry and know that there's so many other pieces that are lacking.
Yeah.
The law side is lacking. The
Yeah.
distribution side is lacking. So when people say, I want my own wine brand because you like wine, that's cute and all. But understand that there's so many legalities that cost that needs to make it make sense. So please just work for somebody. Do it for 5 weeks. Work for Love Corkscrew for 5 weeks, and you might be like, "Whoo, oh hell no," or you might be like, "Yes, this is what I want." But I think what's happening with this younger generation, and again, I don't want to start talking age and ageism, but that everyone wants to get paid for everything, but you don't know nothing. That is not how to succeed in
Oh,
owning your own. It's not
shit.
the years that I put in of free.com, or the opportunities I said, you know what, let me just hop on. Can I just work for you? Can I just volunteer? The word volunteer doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And understand it's not always because a brand is trying to take advantage of you or your time. We know this. Yes, your time is valuable. Yes, we know your time is worth. Of course. However, when you're telling me that you want to jump into an industry that, unless you got $250,000 sitting there, good luck. You gotta test the market and see what makes sense for you and make sure you even want to go here. Not
Yeah.
everyone's going to be an overnight success. And not everyone is going to hit the stars, the moon, the sky, and everything so perfectly, and boom, I'm worth 60 million. It's not
Mhm.
normal. That's not normal. So that's be my first bit of advice. Second is to use the people around you. This is the one piece that nobody ever does. That if you take anything I've said tonight, take this. Your friends, how many of your friends you know exactly what they do for a living? Like precisely. You
Mhm.
may know who they work for, but do you know exactly their profession?
Mm.
There might be some of your friends, and let me broaden that, associates that you speak to or that you are coming in the rooms with often, and you have no idea what they do. Ask them, because sometimes you may find out that you had that gem sitting under you this whole time
Mm.
that could help you, and you never asked. And then that's the third part is ask. If somebody tells you no, so what? Move, keep it moving. But ask.
Mhm.
Ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask for advice. Ask for, hey, do you want to partner, or do you want to jump into this, or do you want to do something? Oh, wait, what do you do? Wait, I know you're a lawyer, but a lawyer in exactly what?
Hmm.
Oh, you didn't know they were a trademark lawyer. What?
Right. Because
There's
the trademark lawyer is clutch.
hello. You didn't know that your bestie was a contract lawyer. You just know she was a lawyer. There's just certain things that you may not know that you have around you,
Yeah.
that could be beneficial to starting your own business. And again, that's for everything. Forget wine. In general,
Yeah.
for you to be successful in the next level and whatever that looks like,
Yeah.
truly listen to the people around you because they're around you for a reason.
Yeah.
We all attract who we're supposed to be around,
Yeah.
but you may not know why.
Yeah. And I will also add that understanding that value is not always monetary. And so, like going back to your point about people not wanting to do things or, volunteer, like when I started my career and I opened the St. Regis, when I started my career, like I barely got paid for anything outside of the floor, but I made so many connections and to this day that I can use because I used to volunteer at Sobe Wine and Food, right? I was there all the time. I was at, the best of the best when they would pour the wines. I was like, oh, I need to get in there. Even they would pay me in wine. But like today, try to get somebody to do that. They're like, well, Dom, it's like you have to understand a value exchange. The art of value exchange is so underrated. And I wish people understood that like it's not always let me pay you something. It's like if you do this, trust me, it'll pay off down the line. You will figure it out because what you're seeking is always seeking you. So it's always going to come back around.
And
Uh,
that's the last piece, patience. Patience. You have to be patient in anything that's fantastic, in anything. And when I'm saying this, I'm not just giving advice. Trust me, I'm saying this for myself because I get anxious when I turn in my RFPs and all these opportunities to be in all these larger retailers. I'm in some great ones, but you want to be in more, right? I lack patience because I feel like I've been here for so long. However, I tell everyone if you're just starting this business, woo, but also think ahead. Again, the game has changed. E-commerce is changing. B2B is not what it is anymore. Really look at your consumers in B2C and take it back to the old school in anything that you have going on. Just think back to like almost the cold calling days, right? Just think back to your Rolodex. Think back to back in the day where you really actually had to touch somebody because AI ain't it. It ain't just it. That ain't just it. AI doesn't can't taste your wine. So there's more. There's more.
and for clarity's sake, B2B is business to business and B2C is business to consumer. Just so we're, not talking in business terms.
Yes, yes, I apologize. And I don't know, and I know I might have said on premise and off premise. So on premise is restaurants, golf courses, nightclubs. Off premise is retail stores. So yeah, just so you guys know, my 90% of my business has been off premise in the wine space. And again, times have changed. I was not restaurant wine. You go to Whole Foods, you go to HEB, you go to Walmart, Target, Whole Foods, all those places and purchase. So off premise versus on premise.
So let's talk about community and culture and like how you've woven that into your brand ethos and how do you kind of pour into the community and what that looks like? Because you mentioned earlier about people volunteering for you and that kind of stuff. Like what does that look like for Love Corkscrew and Chrishon since now they're kind of becoming their own brand entities.
Yes, yes. So, Krishan, that side is definitely mentorship. I've been in the industry in a different way than others maybe. Again, I did not grow up, growing grapes, right? I'm sales marketing. That is my niche. And the funny thing is, I'll never forget, I went to Healdsburg one day and met with a vineyard owner there. Just amazing, like $300-400 bottle of wine. And he says to me, and I'm like nervous meeting him, and I'm trying to take notes and figure out, how his vineyard is so successful and why. And he's saying to me, well, no, I want your marketing know-how. Like, what the heck? Like, we're not in stores. Like, how did you do this? So I try to mentor as much as I can, because I realized that my voice was being heard because I'm very honest with everything. I'm not gonna sit on a panel and brag about my accomplishments. I'm gonna tell you everything I did wrong so you can learn how to do it right. So mentorship on the Chrishon Lampley side is where I'm pouring into the community. For you guys that also don't know, I'm the vice president of the African American Association of Vintners. So I want to bring up kind of like I'm that person in between that can bring the old school and the new school together, since I kind of sit right in the middle, and build this community for us all to help each other, which is going to take time. We're all over the place. I'm in the Midwest and some are in the West Coast and the East Coast. As far as Love Corkscrew is concerned, it is building the community of making wine not so intimidating. I definitely was one of the first to put nutritional value on the back of my label. So it's bringing in the old school with the new school, right? I still have that old school flavor, but the new school of, wait, how many calories am I actually consuming? And what it really means to me and what does it look like? And involving the community in a way where, again, wine is not intimidating. I don't care what color you are. I don't care who you're. Just I want you to drink the wine. And here's $20, and you can buy a bottle of Love Corkscrew. So it's just kind of meshing in my know-how. Do I know everything about wine? No. Am I pretty darn good with education? Yes. So it's me being able to talk on a different level to some to not get scared of wine. So I don't use all the large terms for people. So it's really just making wine a little more fun, a little more fun,
And approachable.
approachable.
So just a few more questions. You mentioned mistakes. What is the biggest mistake that you feel like you've made and how did you recover? And what is the biggest mistake that you feel like the industry is making right now?
Yes. Okay. And I know a few of you are wine brands on here. I'll say this loudly, not loud, but you'll hear me. Stop giving away so much product. That was my biggest mistake starting. That was my biggest mistake. Yes, you have to have a marketing budget. Yes, there is going to be a certain amount that you have to allocate for sponsorship. Absolutely. But stop jumping at the shiny carrot. I would say I jumped too big for certain companies that I thought were going to make me rich. Certain TV shows, certain groups that I'm like, they want Love Corkscrew. This is going to be huge. I'm talking movies, you name it. Love Corkscrew's been on several things. Did it turn the needle? No. Did it look cool? Sure.
Yeah.
However, there were certain organizations that made more sense, or people that made more sense. And I'm like, wait, so you only want a bottle of wine and then you're going to post it and you're going to share it into your, 30,000 followers? Some of the best things I ever did. So as opposed to giving away 10 cases for this award show, dumbest thing ever. Because literally years later, I looked back at what I gave away. I gave away over 6 figures worth of wine
Oh,
to
wow.
not move the needle on anything but feel cool. And I see a lot of new brands doing that. Yeah, you get a lot of likes on your post because you did that. Did you
Yeah.
actually sell anything? Did you
Yeah.
sell more than 2 bottles of what people, did you really? More than likely not. So unless you're getting back more than 20, 30% of what you just did, that was pointless. So my biggest mistake was the giveaway. And also my biggest mistake, but it ended up eventually paying off, is spreading too quick. During COVID and civil unrest with George Floyd, everybody wanted a Black owned everything, right? So I expanded extremely fast. I went from 3 states of distribution to 20 in a matter of weeks. Weeks. I was doing it all. I was doing all the licensing. I was doing all the packing. I was doing everything.
Oh, wow.
If only I had have said no and just focused on what I had. The best advice I ever got was from the previous owners of Barefoot. They sold their company for, a gazillion dollars, right? And I was sitting with them and they said to me, Chrishon, it's like taking a magnifying glass to a newspaper. If you move the magnifying glass around, you're never going to catch fire. But if you hold it in one place, you will.
Mm,
So that was the biggest mistake I made was trying to get too big too fast. So years later, I had to catch up. So
yeah.
it's honestly not till a year ago have I even started catching up with my distribution. So slow down, slow down. It's not being saying that you are in Walmart, you're gonna spend more money. I spent more money being in Walmart than I've made. So saying that you're in a certain store, a certain retailer doesn't look like what you think it will. So
Yeah.
slow down. Tell me that you're doing so well that these stores are coming after you. Then you consider expanding. And lastly, as advice, is to get certified. When I say that, Minority Business Enterprise, Women Business Enterprise, WOSB, ACDBE. If you're going to get into this business, please get certifications. You may think that because of the changing of this great administration that it's not going to be necessary anymore, but trust that some of these companies won't even talk to you unless you are. Period.
Mm,
Period.
that's a really good point. So really great advice. I have one more question and I'm going to open it up for other people to be able to ask questions. And it's really just what's next? What's the next thing? What's the next moves? Now that you're caught up, where are we going now?
Yeah, so pivot. I think I mentioned pivot to you guys. You might see a little bit on this back, but this is my kind of little sneak peek. The
Mhm.
pivot is I'm introducing the Lampley line. Life happened. I lost my father February 15th, and I've had a second company for a while now, the Lampley, which is my home goods line. I actually launched during COVID and put it on the back burner for a while because Love Corkscrew took off. And again, I was cleaning up and doing all these things. So I had gotten through the years, definitely people who said, but Chrishon, we need that one higher tier. To put on the menu. We just need one, just something else to put into the large hotels and things like that. And I said, you know what? I've been creating some custom crushes for a while that I've been just kind of holding on to and have not launched. So it was perfect timing to say, you know what, got to do it now. So I am launching a new line called the Lampley. That's going to be my upscale tier, which I'm very excited about. Even though paying honor to my husband, I am a Salter, but my dad and my husband told me both to keep that last name Lampley, which is a very strong, powerful, very unique name, and I decided to launch the Lampley line. So that is going to be launched in honor of my father on Father's Day. So very
Oh,
excited about that. Thank
congratulations.
you.
That
You
makes
guys are
me
the first to hear, so for real,
cry.
you all are the first ones to hear. So the 11 of you, y'all are the first to hear. And the
That
first
is
to see,
really
because this is just the sample bottle. So this is the Lampley line, and and
what's the brand's going to be?
so
Or
it's going
what's
to be a
the title? Sorry.
Moscato, a Chardonnay, a Riesling, Pinot Grigio, and that's it to start. And already, I think I mentioned earlier that I've been sending off quite a few RFPs. So if you guys know what that, it's request for proposal, right? I've been sending those out to a few large retailers that are asking during this time. And how funny, and I say it's my dad's work. One of the largest retailers asked for the Lampley already, and it hasn't even launched. So
Congratulations.
that's why I had to get the sample bottles hurry up and made. So these bottles are heading out to Texas, and I'm super super excited that already people are going crazy over it that I in the industry. So I think it's going to be something special.
That's amazing and so beautiful. Congratulations again.
Thank you, thank you,
Uh,
thank you.
so I'll open it up. Feel free to come off of mute if you have a question for Krishan. This has been such a wonderful conversation.
Please ask away. Why y'all got me? Ask, 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 whatever you guys want. I usually charge $500 an hour for this, so ask.
question about volunteering. Um, if you want to volunteer for an event or organization or something that's happening, mostly event things, is it okay to be very specific in like saying what capacity you'd like to volunteer based on your strengths?
Heck yeah. Tell us exactly what you want to do. If you said to me, Krishan, I know you're doing the event in Napa for the Blue Wine Fest. Hey, I live in that area and I would like to pour for 2 hours. And then if I pour for the 2 hours, can you give me 30 minutes of mentorship? Tell me what you want. Heck
Mm,
yeah. Or say, hey, I know nothing about wine, but I'm great at any AI thing. I'm great at writing. I'm great. Trust and believe in this industry. We need every single thing, right? Every single skill set is needed. Some people are great at research. I need someone to research more grants. I'm using Fiverr like crazy right now because of just little niche things that I need that I just don't have the time to do. So yes, when you want to volunteer, don't just think that our wine brands just want you to pour for 10 hours. Like, no, I don't just need that. I can pour myself. I can pour 3 bottles myself with 2 hands. There are other things that we need that could introduce you to something bigger and better.
mm,
So yes, be very specific. Please don't lie. Be very specific. I've had some volunteers like, okay, you knew nothing about wine, but so why did you want to? However, you were great at social media.
mhm.
Heck yeah, you come to the event. You're coming in free to an amazing event. I'm asking you to go around with your phone. Pretty awesome. Like pretty awesome. So yes, yes, be very specific.
Great question. Susan wants to know, she said, I'd like to hear Krishan's behind the scenes decisions about choosing which wines to produce and choosing growers, etc.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it really simple. Listen to everyone else, meaning your consumers, the people around you. When you're deciding what you're going to produce, make, source, however you do it, whether you're a negociant, custom crush, whether you're just buying shiners, whatever it is, listen to everyone else. The mistake, in my opinion, that a lot of wine professionals make when they're coming out with their own brand is they're choosing exactly what they like. And they tend to be snobs, so then they're producing wine that they can be behind and want to talk about this is the best wine ever and it won so many points and blah, 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 but nobody likes it. Listen to the consumers, listen to your friends, listen to the people around you, what your market space lies. And at that point, you're going to know what to produce, if that makes sense. If I'm a sorority girl, right? And there's a whole bunch of stores around me and they like Riesling. I produced a Riesling, one of my number one sellers. Like, think about what's around you and what makes sense. And then you're going to be able to narrow it down. Now, don't make the mistake I did. Thank goodness it ended up paying off eventually, but I was called the Snapple of wines, right? Because I had 8 varietals when I started. I ended up narrowing down to 6 specific ones. But start small. Start 2 to 3, make it make sense, and then you'll know what makes sense. Listen to everybody else. Listen to everybody else. Don't listen to yourself because you know everything about wine. Don't do that. That's my opinion.
Another great question. I think we have time for one more. If somebody else has a question.
Please.
I don't have a question, but I'd just like to say that I am so proud of you from Chicago, myself. And I couldn't believe it. We were in the airport like about 2 years ago or so, and they introduced Love Corkscrew in the airport. So I ran through the airport just to find your wine.
Oh,
So I
Oh,
do want to say congratulations to that. I don't have a specific question. I think it's in general. I am not in like the retail side of wine. I am an auctioneer, and I think I'm tired of auctioneering, and I'm trying to find a where I want to go next in the wine industry. And I don't know if anybody have like any ideas. I would love
export,
to hear.
import is very important right now. I would get licensed in that. Because there's so many suppliers, brand owners that are looking for that next thing. One of the vineyards I used to work for just shut down in California. They just like literally just shut down like last week. And I'm like, what the what? So there's so many things happening now that a lot of suppliers or brands are looking for wine. They're looking for wine. So I don't know if somebody else had the question about what wine to pick, but as an auctioneer, my mind went straight to being that consultant, or that I know people don't like to use the word broker, but being that person that introduces some lovely wines to brands, because also a lot of vineyards have wine just sitting there, right? They have shiners just sitting there that they want to move, and some at some great pricing. So consider import, export, consider brokerage, consider consulting.
Okay, thank you.
Got it. I think somebody has their hand up.
Alexis.
Hi, Soror. So,
At the bedside.
yes, sorry guys, but I had to greet it that way. I have been in close relation with Joyce, and she's provided some amazing mentorship to me for my nonprofit. Recently, I have been what I've been saying released from corporate America. And so I have went full steam ahead in my operations management business. Um, so the question that I have for you is that I've spent a lot of time doing data management and dashboarding in my corporate career, and I'm trying to really support our Black-owned small businesses, and hopefully even medium and large-size businesses in that area as well, but I'm still building. So I wanted to just find out your opinion. I know you even mentioned Fiverr during the call, but what do you think is probably one of the largest needs? I like to make sure that my clients know that my gift is more so like document design. We work together on the words and then I format the document. But what do you think is probably like the biggest need right now, even with the administration the way it is, for our small businesses or even our medium businesses when it comes to like
RFPs.
operations?
RFPs, proposals, we get them nonstop. Any type of
Okay.
Excel data entry. So literally,
Okay.
I just got an RFP from I don't know if it was Kroger, Whole Foods, like, and everything's due like in 10 days from when they send it to you. And it's intricate, it's ridiculous. I got a few RFPs from some duty-free companies, and all of that entry takes up so much time. It's ridiculous. And some of
So
it is
like
the
data
standard
entry.
data entry proposals. Some are just simply proposals. So you putting in, this is my wholesale pricing, this is the fanciful name, this is the picture image, and this is the reason to believe, right? But everyone has a different format, which
Yeah.
becomes
Yep.
very annoying, right? This has to be certain
Yeah. They
JPEG.
give you a template.
Oh God, I'm getting ahead of the game, right? So it's so annoying. So we leave
Okay.
money on the table as brands, not having the time to fill in all of that information, and we lose money in our words. Meaning, I think everyone again is so caught up on Chat GPT and typing in things that we're losing the heartstrings of the proposals that make it work. I am going to say in my gut that the reason why this particular retailer automatically chose 5 of the Lampley brands before they even touched it was because my heartfelt proposal of this is for my father. Things are going back, money is going back to encephalopathy and thyroid disease. Like I was just straight up with it. It wasn't me typing in something to Chat GPT and pulling out this paragraph. Not saying I don't use it, but I'm saying I think what's missing is the heartstrings. What's missing is the human piece, and we need help in discovering those pieces as well as eloquently writing them,
Mm.
putting them together, and putting them together properly.
Okay. Okay. So I love that and I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for that answer.
Of course, of course. Did I see something else in the chat? I don't have my readers on, so I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody.
Tessa said, this was amazing. I come from Southern wine and I get it. I'm wondering what's next after this. So thank you. This has been great.
Oh, I love it, love it. Oh, that's in that. So Southern Wine like distribution, y'all, man, y'all are stirring things up. I'll say that. I'm gonna leave controversial.
Wow. And Dame said, great conversation. Sorry, I had to go. So he left a little while ago.
Oh,
But
Damon, yes, that's fine. I know, Damon. Yeah, but yes, things are getting stirred up. So, so I'll say this. I'm not gonna call out anybody, but yeah, things are crazy. A lot of layoffs are happening. A lot of restructures are happening. The world is getting crazy. So I will say this again for brands. Don't think that because you have a hot concept and because Whole Foods wants you, that all of a sudden the distributor is going to pick you up. Lies. Lies. The distributor could say, oh, yeah, no, we're good. We have enough. So don't think of somebody great. You're gonna I don't care if they say we're gonna take in 10,000 cases. I kid you not. A friend of mine who owns a very large brand asked the distributor to pick them up because they had a 10,000 case order. The distributor said, no, we're good, we pass. So, and I don't know the Southern person, I'm telling the truth here. Let's have it, right? So I'm just saying, please, 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 if you're interested, if you have a brand, if you're growing a brand or whatever, please build that e-commerce, build that in person, build the event space, build yourself in so many other ways to get the cash to finance it. Look for those grants, like get Alexis to write those grants for you, whatever. But there's so many other ways that you need to build before you think, oh, Target took me or such and such took me. That's it. A distributor's going to be knocking at my door. They 100% will not.
distributors are hoarding right now.
Yes.
They are
And they're
hoarding.
stuck with tons of product. So understand also distributors are stuck with warehouses of tons and tons of product that they still have left over from COVID. So they're trying to work through that while at the same time letting go of most of their sales staff. So they have nobody even to sell it. So they're just stuck with tons of stuff. So they're not picking you up. They're just not. And if they do, they're a delivery service. They're not selling for you. So just be cautious in the shiny carrot. And I'll leave that at that.
Very wise advice to end this conversation on. Thank you, Chrishon, for joining us and for dropping so many gems. Sending you so much love in your healing journey.
Right.
And I can't wait for your new product to drop. And, we want to support you as always. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Good night.
Thank y'all. Tell everybody what y'all missed. That could have been 100 people on here. What the heck? Bye.
Girl, I don't know. I'm glad you said something. I don't know. I hope y'all watch the recording so you'll hear me say,
Uh-huh.
no. Like, what is this? Thank
Take
you.
care,
Good
everyone.
night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.